Hey everybody, we just want to welcome you to Empower's office hours. Feel free to, if you want to turn on your camera, go for it. If not, you can be stealth in the background. But the big thing here that we're trying to work through together is to um, clean up some systems that unless I'm sure no one here has a system that needs any help at all. So like I'm glad y'all are here to be able to help others learn. But I know I've worked in churches for years, and the best intentions and best processes, if they're not routinely tuned up, it's easy for some drift to happen. So we're excited to kind of walk you through a few ways that hopefully Empower can get you set up to where you can get through, and we can help do what we all really want to do is have a clean and cut the clutter in ministry and be able to serve people more. But yeah, any questions you have, we'll kind of start through. My name's Justin Long. I'm the marketing director here, and I've got Jeff Campbell, who is the man, the myth, and the legend, general manager. If you want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi, I'm Jeff Campbell. I'm the general manager of Power Church Software. I oversee our development teams, which includes Empower, which we'll be looking at today, as well as Power Church. I have been here at Power Church for 35 years, a very long time, back when we still were running in DOS and shipping products on floppy disks. So it's gone a long ways in those 35 years. But yeah, we'll be taking a look at cleaning up stuff today.
Awesome. Yeah, and feel free to type in any questions. So we'll do kind of a walkthrough that should take up a decent chunk of the time, but we'll always leave time for questions. So whether it's just typing in the chat, I'll keep an eye on that. And anything bigger than what we can cover in this conversation, we're always available to help you kind of work through this. I know we're about to explode things and give you all a bunch of homework, but we're here with you after that too. So don't worry, we'll get it going for you. Yeah, Jeff, if you want to start that.
Okay, I will share my screen here. Okay, just making sure everybody can see my screen. And we get the notes. There to where I can see it. Okay, all right, we're going to take a look at Empower here. And first thing we're going to do is kind of tune up our security areas. So staff comes and goes or volunteers come and go. We want to make sure that who has access to the system and do they have the appropriate amount of access. So we go to utilities and security. We can go through each person, check what they have access to. So this is a check-in user here that's just running a check-in station. Make sure they just have access to check-in. Verify, what areas they have access to. Do they have the access that they need? Do they have too much access to areas? And if somebody shouldn't have options anymore, we can deactivate them if we think they're coming back, or we could just delete them as a user themselves, and that would remove them. Maybe a volunteer who was coming and working on the system and is no longer doing that. We want to remove their stuff, so we remove their security permissions, so we know who has the right permissions to access into the systems. The next thing is we want to kind of look at our personal status codes and how things are set up. So I'm going to go to options here, and people, I'm going to come down to personal statuses. Now, personal status is usually, we explain it as what's the person's relationship to the church itself, like to the church. Are they a visitor? Are they a regular attender? Are they a member? So what's that person's relationship to the church itself? And it's easy for this list to kind of grow in unexpected ways. So one of the things we want to do is kind of go through here. We want to mark our status codes that are members. You might have multiple status codes that all mean member. We want to make sure they are all marked with as being a member. So select the code and say edit. There's an option here that says, hey, this code means that they're a member. There's a few places Empower will use that. So once you know, like, hey, which codes mean member, so go ahead and mark those. The other thing we want to do is set a default code in here. So when we add a new household or we add a new person, this is the status code that'll be assigned to people here. In our case here, we've set visitor. Actually, I don't set it here. I set it here. Well, I said it because it's already set. We would set it to default. That'll set that option to be this default. So that's just handy. When we add a new person, they'll be assigned that code automatically, and we don't have to worry about that. So we've set this here so all of our visitors are set as default, and the little star there next to it tells you that's the default. Now it is easy to get duplicated codes. So in my sample data here, I've actually got 3 codes: active member, member, and member-active. And that's just because some people have done some data entry differently than was expected, and now we end up with 3 codes where really that should all be in one. And we can consolidate those codes just by selecting this here, selecting the code. We're going to keep just the one that says member. I'm just going to delete this code, and it comes up here and here it says, okay, do you want to move everybody that is active member to another code? We're going to just move everybody there from active member to member until it delete that. Anybody who had that active member code will now just be assigned the member code. And the same thing here. I'm going to kind of just delete the member active code and tell it to anybody who has this code, replace it, put them in the member status code in there as well. And so that just cleans up those codes. It is somewhat easy to add a new code. I'll just show you here really quickly. You can add a new code. If you come in here and somebody types new code, if I was to save that, that would actually create a new code in there with that option. So just audit those codes, come in and clean them up. The next thing we kind of want to talk about is looking at our households, and we want to look at one kind of tip here for this is if we go over here to attendance, and I'm going to come down specifically and look at in Empower Church has this as well. We'll kind of display an attendance graph so that if we're looking through people, we can kind of get an idea of how often they attend if we're recording attendance or through check-in. And if the person has security privileges set right, they can get a notice here of when somebody gave. They can't see how much they gave, but they can see how often somebody has given. And this is a good way to kind of look at things if you're determining, hey, is somebody involved or not? Do we want to archive them off? So here, Brooks and Anthony, they are active involved, so obviously wouldn't. But if we come down to Browning, Ethan, and Lily, we can see there's no contribution data or anything for them, and so we can then we're going to look at them individually. So we can click on Ethan Browning here. We can go look and see, okay, he is not listed in any activities. And if we go over to the donor information here, we can just verify. I'm going to look at his donor screen. And I can see, hey, there's been no contributions for him. So this is a good candidate for us to archive. So I'm going to come back and go back to the household screen here. And I can also look at here. I can see that they were added in 2019. So from 2019, we have no contributions. We have no attendance information that was entered into them. So we can archive this household. Now to archive, we can just come here and select archive. And it gives me a confirmation. Are you sure this is what you want to do? And then we can say some days why. We can say, why we're reading. No activity, and then we can change their status. And I'm going to just go ahead and change them. Actually, I'm going to make a new status, And the same thing here. I'm going to just change their statuses to inactive. And now we've archived that household out of the system. Now they're still, this is kind of a soft delete, of course. This is sort of a soft delete in the system itself. Let me just go ahead and archive them again. And I'm just going to change these to inactive. They are still in the system. If we want to get them back for some reason, say they came back, we would come over here to advanced search and change our filter here to show is archived households. So here's the household. If we did need to restore them back into the database, we would click here and that would restore them back into the regular database itself here. And so that's our archive. You want to kind of go through. You might want to verify with other staff members of people, because we don't want to by mistake archive, you know, a prior staff member who still has a relationship with the church. It's just there's nothing that's hitting the database itself that's getting updated. The other kind of area we want to go through is if we have duplicate people in our people section, we want to merge those duplicate people together. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to look at our records here. We have a Dave Butler, but we also have a David Butler. And they are duplicate people. We just got the same person entered in twice, and we want to kind of consolidate them. A couple things that we're going to look at here. If we look at the contact information, so here the email address is Butler Dave, and here the email address is david.butler. So I'm going to consolidate David Butler into Dave Butler is what I'm going to consolidate. So to merge these together, I'm going to select the one I want to merge, and then I'm going to say merge. So everything from David Butler, we're going to merge into Dave Butler. Now it's going to warn me here that says, hey, you know, one is a primary adult and one is a child. That's okay. We'll look at that when we're done. And so everything has been consolidated together. If I come back here to demographics, you know, this Dave Butler is a primary adult in the household. That's how we want them to be. And if we come back to the contact information, you will see it's kept both of those. Now, just a word about contributions. If one person had contributions, if our David Butler had contributions, they would now be combined in with the Dave Butler giving unit. That's here. So the contributions at that point would be combined in with Dave and Vicky's giving together there. So it will track the contributions and will combine if need be there. So it'll if the person who you're merging, if they're the only person in that giving unit, will merge in their contributions with the person that's receiving that you're being merged into as well. And the next kind of area to look at is caring. Caring is an area in Empower where we can track hospital visits and extended care facilities if people are in those. And we want to kind of go through and clean those up as well. So for one thing, we go into advanced search here under people, and I can create a search criteria. I want to look for everybody who's got an active caring. So I've got 2 people right now that have an active caring. So the first here, let's actually just look at Jack Bass. You know, we've got him in the hospital starting on May 1st, and it's still ongoing. Well, hopefully he's out of the hospital by now. So we might call around and talk to people who know him and go, okay, he's out of the hospital, just the records didn't get updated. So, you know, we would come in here and say, okay, well, yeah, he actually got out of the hospital May 5th and save that change just to get those records updated so that it doesn't show that he has an active caring. That just helps your caring teams have up-to-date information so that those things get updated and kind of get off those those lists, or maybe other follow-up that needs to be made. And the same thing here with David Block. You know, it's from March 2025. There's not an ongoing end date. You know, we might do some research here to find out, you know, when he got out of the hospital, and you know, we'll say he got out of the hospital, you know, March 10th, and we just update those. So there again, so now we can do a search to show our active carings, and it's showing us the information we want, only those people who have active carings. We can our caring teams can have up-to-date correct information to be able to take care of our people. Another area that's good for cleanup is the activities. So I'm going to come to membership and go to activities. Again, an activity is really any group that's happening within the life of your church. This could be worship services that we're tracking attendance for. It could be Sunday school classes. It could be committees. It could be choirs. It could also be just groups that are happening in here. And that's what we have in our sample data here. We actually have two groups that have been created somehow, Knitting and Knitting 101. And they're really the same group. We just gotten two groups committed together. So we want to be able to combine these two groups together as well. So to combine these two groups together, I'm going to come over here to this group, and I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to say move members. And I'm going to move all of our members over to our knitting group. So I'm just going to come down and say knitting, and then what day we want this to take place. I'm going to say May 30th and click next. And it's going to ask who we want to move. We will just select our people and say finish. And it says one new member has been moved to the new activity. And until I come back over here, I will see that our people are all moved together into one activity. And now I can come back to the activity that's no longer needed, and I can actually archive it, or in this case, I might even consider just deleting it. But we can archive an activity. There again, that makes it a soft delete if we ever needed it back, or we can just delete it in this case here because it was a duplicated activity. Some other things to double check in activities is this is a good time to go through and check all of our settings for as far as like attendance as what we want to do. So are we recording attendance? There's a couple options here. We can record detail attendance, which means we're recording who individually showed up for that activity. We can, for things like worship services, we can record total attendance. So we're coming in a worship service and we're not tracking each individual person who attended, or there's a place to record, you know, we had 150, 200, whatever people that recorded that attended the worship service. So this is a good time to kind of clean through and clean up, make sure our attendance options are set. Same thing with check-in. We come down through our check-in options, as all of our check-in options set with one. I actually heard from my church this last week, for instance, like the nursery, when the check-in was not prompting for how many bags. So we come in here and select this to say, hey, prompt for how many bags they're dropping off when they drop off the children in the nursery. And we probably also want to record attendance as we're checking kids in as well. So a good time to kind of just go through, double check all of these settings in here. And you can also then print rosters, or ask your leaders to verify, hey, who's no longer attending, and go ahead and remove them out of the list of people in the activity. To do that, the easiest way is to come in here, just edit them. And if you get a close approximation of when they stopped attending, so, you know, maybe they stopped attending in January, we'll be just putting it a date ended of when they kind of left that activity or no longer participating in that activity. And we can come back and we can see history then. If we go to former, we can see everybody who used to be a member of this activity by switching to the former tab as well. And Just double checking, make sure I didn't skip any portions of it. I kind of went a little out of order, but that's it with activities. And kind of the next thing to maybe look at is what events we have scheduled. So at the beginning of the year, it could be the youth group went through and scheduled out a lock-in here in September, and the children's activity was looking to do something that same weekend, but they couldn't because, or they saw, well, we shouldn't do that because there's already an event scheduled in the building for those period of time, so we didn't. So, but the staff changes, calendars change, maybe youth volunteers weren't available any longer, and so this youth lock-in isn't happening any longer. We want to go ahead and remove it from the calendar to kind of free up at least the mental space or whatever, like, so other leaders know, hey, that this is no longer happening. And or if it's been rescheduled, move it to the time it's been rescheduled to. Do you have anything else there for that, Justin?
No, I think this is one of the tips that I love because I worked in church communications for years, and it's always, I mean, really excited when an event's planned for like a youth lock-in, but then things change, like Jeff said, and then what what the this unfortunate thing with that is like the one click of not having the right information meant that like now the kids ministry wanted to do an event, but they decided to follow the rules and looked and saw, well, that date's taken. We can't use the sanctuary, so we can't do this. So now that didn't get to happen. Which, so I think that's the beauty of having accurate information when you do this. And I know if y'all are here, you care about accurate information. So thank you.
And another area, another area to talk about cleaning up is our list of contribution funds. So I'm going to go to contributions, and I'm going to go to funds. And we want to identify, well, one thing, we want to go through and set fund groups. And so a fund group is not all that commonly used. And what it's really designed to do is be able to let us easily pull funds together for one area. So for instance, I'm going to come here, advanced search, and I'm going to search where the fund group is youth. This makes it really easy for me to pull all the youth funds together. So we've got 4 contribution funds for youth with like just general giving to the youth that somebody's giving to support the youth department. The youth has a fundraiser once a year to help raise funds. So any amounts coming in there, we record through this. Any amounts coming in from youth camp scholarships where people are paying to send kids to camp, they're not their own, but like as a scholarship the church controls, we're recording the money through youth camp scholarships and youth activity fees. And that's going to come into my the next point to talk about here is under setup for each of these to kind of set up how that money is given, whether it is restricted, and that's the case of our general youth and our youth fundraising, and that this money is restricted for using it with the youth, so that money can't be used for other purposes, so it's considered restricted money. And the other option here for youth activity fees, we actually want to change that, and we want to set this to a non-donation. Funds that are set to non-donation will not print on contribution statements. So this is like my kids just came back from camp. They went to camp last week. They came back on Friday. This is recording the parents that are paying to send their kids to camp. It's not often it's easier to record those payments through contributions, even though it's not really a contribution. And that makes it easier to record those. You can then come back and see who has paid to that contribution fund or to that fund, to know who's paid for camp and who's not paid for camp as there as well. But marking as non-donation then will not print out on their contribution statements. So this is a good time just to kind of go through these things here and make sure that all the contribution, the groups are set if you want to use groups. Another group that we have is our missions. So if we were looking for, hey, how much has been given to missions, we could just run a report for, say, show me all the contribution funds that are grouped by missions as well. And the other kind of cleanup thing here is to go through and look for contribution funds that have not been used. So there, I can use this search area again and say, show me everybody whose last giving fund was on or before, I'm going to say 1/1/2020, 1/1/2025, and I can say search. And I've got 2 contribution funds and not been used this year. Now I made this really kind of a small area, but this might be the time to go through and clean these up if they're not going to be used in the future. So I can see, last time this was given was September 24, and this one October 24. There again, I can archive a fund. There again, it's not deleting it, it's just making it so that you can't enter new contributions to it. So that makes, by reducing down the number of contribution funds that are available, it helps our data entry operators entering contributions of having a smaller list of funds they can select from, makes the data entry more, reduces down the chance for errors while they're making data entry, I guess is what I want to say. Like if they've got a smaller list, if we know this Haiti was a one-time thing or was not going to happen again, we can go ahead and archive it. It'll still print on reports from when the giving was done there. It's not really deleting it out of the system. It just marks it as archived. That was a whirlwind. We've covered a lot of data. What else do you have to add, Justin?
No, I think this is a lot of helpful information. I think that I'm curious on, looks like we have 18 people in here. You are the pros that deal with this data on your end all the time. So I don't know if you have any questions or if we need to jump back in on any topic. This is being recorded and we'll post it on our YouTube, and you'll get a link into the recording also. But yeah, if you want to type in the chat any questions you might have, or if you're brave enough, you can turn your camera and audio on. And Lynn, just mentioned the archive feature. That is really helpful because it's nice to, again, like clear the clutter of things so you can't make the mistake and accidentally give to the Nehemiah project that was a building campaign, and then oh no, it's the Nehemiah extended version, or there's some versions where it's like we have two very similar things. So yeah, it's helpful to kind of clear that out without totally deleting it, because the moment you delete it, someone will want to see something from that, I'm sure. Um, if you have any questions or anything related to this, or just general questions that we might be able to help with, now's kind of your opportunity to do that. And I'll be pasting in a link to the PDF that we put in the email that we sent out for the Empowered newsletter. But just in case you need to look at it, that will have a way to kind of, whether it's for you or for your team, you can take a look at that and just kind of work through a few things. And I know all of this can be overwhelming, but just one step at a time. And it's always better if you can make it a group project. Like I love when Jeff mentioned things like, make sure you can print out this list, and before you archive them or delete them, it's always, we can't know everyone, no matter what size church you are, as much as we probably want to. So I think if it's a list of things where you can export and make sure, hey, are all these youth still part of the youth group, or have they been gone for 20 years, but we just forgot to click a button, and so now we can't find them. Let's see. We just got a question from Linda. So asking, how do I delete old bank accounts from 20 years ago?
Okay, I can address that. Linda, you're probably it sounds like you're using PowerChurch. So the accounting side of things is in PowerChurch, and Power does not have accounting. So we'll cover in just a minute of the relationship between Empower and PowerChurch. So in PowerChurch, you can delete an account once there's no detail to it any longer. So in PowerChurch, there is a delete old data function that if you don't need 20-year-old accounting information, you can go in and delete that information. So, if you decide, hey, we only need 10 years worth of accounting information, you can, first make a backup of the data you have. Always make a backup before you go and do a major change like this. So inside of PowerChurch, there is there's an option that says delete all data. You can go into in fund accounting and say, you know, delete everything before what was 10 years ago, 2015 was 10 years ago. So you can say delete everything before 1/1/2015 or 12/31/2014, and that'll delete all that information out. Once you've deleted out all of that detailed information, you can then go and delete the account. So you'll kind of need to decide, you know, how many years worth of accounting data do we need? 20 years is a lot of accounting data, but that is one of the things that's kind of humbling working at Power Church. We have a number of customers that have been using our product for over 20 years. In fact, there's some that have been using the program for over 30. I've talked to a few that have been here even longer than that. So since the late 80s, they've been using Power Church. So there is a lot of people have quite a bit of data that's in their systems for that. So if you need help deleting that data, call into our support teams. They'll be able to help you, walk you through the process of deleting that old data. But please, first, before you do any of that, always make a backup. Which I guess to kind of segue into that, the relationship between Empower and Power Church. So Power Church is the program that we've been working on since 1984, is when the first versions really came out back in that time. So Power Church is a desktop application. A lot of people are using it through what we call Power Church Online. It's really the same program, Power Church Online, that people can install locally. It's just how they access it. One, Power Church can be installed on people's local computers, or with Power Church Online, it's shared online access so that multiple people from different locations can have access into the data. Empower is a brand new program that we have. It is completely web-based. So all you need to access your information is just a web browser. Anything with a web browser, that could be an iPad, a tablet, a Windows or a Mac computer, even your phone. Can access the information. Basically, anything that's got a web browser can access the data. There's a lot of parallels in it because we're the same people who developed it. So there's a lot of parallels in it, but it is a new program. And currently, Empower has the membership areas, the people, the households, the activities, attendance, check-in, and contribution tracking. Is part of it. We are working in the accounting system to be able to convert accounting over with new features. We don't have any date. Creating a new accounting system is a lot of work. It is well underway, but we still don't have an actual shipping date that we can share yet for what that is. If you want to know more about Empower, we'd be happy to talk with you. Or if you want to sign up for a trial of Empower, you can try it out yourself. There is a mechanism that in Empower, we call it making a deposit, so that when you make a deposit, it'll update. If you're using Power Church Online, it'll update the fund accounting area in Power Church Online, just similar how the posting in Power Church updates, creates a deposit transaction over in fund accounting. Similar kind of process can happen from Empower, so that when you record your contributions in Empower and you record them as a deposit, it'll create the deposit entry in your Power Church Online accounting for you. But we're happy to show you that. Most of the stuff we talked about in here has equivalents in Power Church today. So if you are using Power Church, you can, if you have specific questions, call into our support team, or we'll be happy to take them here too. But our support team will be happy to talk to you about those things.
Awesome. And I think you covered a little bit of it just now, but we did get another question asked: if we move to Empower, will the membership and contribution information still be available, or still be able to be accessed in Power Church, which we will still be using for accounting?
The answer is you don't want to, because they are two. If you do move to Empower, they'll become two separate databases at that point. So really the tie is when you make the deposit in Power, it'll create the accounting entry for you over in Power Church. You'd really just want to use just Power Church just for, in this case, fund accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll. There are somebody has asked recently, and yes, you could do that. If there are some room scheduling features that Power Church has and Empower doesn't have, you could still use those, but it really becomes a separate database at that point. So all your member information, all your groups and your activities, and your check-in and contribution tracking would all be over in Empower, and the databases are there's quite a bit difference in between the two of them. If that doesn't make sense, ask. I will try to clarify how can.
So
Um,
we just got another question from Nancy. Is it possible to add more fields to the emergency contact info, like email address?
Not currently, no. There is not. So what she's talking about over in people, there is a place under contact. Um, to be able to add an emergency contact information for somebody. Currently, it is just a name. Um, you can either type the name of somebody that's in the database already, so that maybe Avery Sophia is the, or Sophia Avery is the contact information here. You can kind of even say, you can type in, what the role is, or what the, you know, um, how they're related. Um, how they're related into this. Nancy, I would be curious to know what other fields you want. I did see your suggestion earlier this week about email address. And I'd be curious to know what other fields you would like to add to be able to put in there for emergency contact. If you would either send them to us or use the function inside of Empower to do that um, as well. I'd be curious to know what other information you want to add in as far as other fields that you would like to see there. Um, Question is, hopefully you were saying the Power Church is not is, and you're not saying Power Church is not going away. Power Church is not going away. We have quite a number of customers that like Power Church. We understand that change is hard. At the same time, as a company, we have customers who are wanting something that's web-based, and that Power Church is not. And so this is our answer for those companies for those places that do want a web-based system there again. So that's more, it's more flexible and that you can use it from anything that's got a web browser. It's easier to share with other people. Even with PowerChurch Online, you don't have to install the IDS client, that small access program that lets you in with PowerChurch Online. And because it is a web program, there's a number of things that we can do inside of Empower that's just not possible in PowerChurch. Power has a member portal, for instance, so that members can log in. We're doing things like you can schedule an email handle. This is what I was thinking about today, but email handling is completely different. You can write an email in Empower and have it say to schedule in, 2 or 3 days, and it will go out at that time. So there's a number of things because it is a server-based web program. The features that we're able to do in Empower that just really aren't possible for us to do inside PowerChurch as is. Um,
Oh, awesome. Yeah, well, that's first of all, thank you for actually asking questions. It makes it so much more fun on our sides to not just stare into the void of the screen. So please always feel free to keep those coming. And at the end of this, if you still have any questions, feel free to contact our support team or email us at um, let's see, would empower it
Empower PowerChurch would be good.
empower at powerchurch.com would be the best email for that. But I'll share that contact information also when we share the recording from this session. But unless we have any other questions now, we just want to thank y'all for joining us. Well, I see we're not going to cut you off, Nancy. I see you typing. We'll get.
Oh, somebody's got their hand raised.
I see that hand. Yes.
Oh, there we go. Now can I talk?
Yes,
Yes.
there you
Oh,
go.
okay. What I'm wondering is if I should put, like my daughter that lives in Massachusetts and I'm in California, in as a person. I saw that when you were adding people in the emergency contact, you could choose the people that were already in the system. If I put her in the system, then I could add all the data I wanted on her
You could,
and
yes.
call her an emergency contact. And then is there a way I can link that so that when you maybe all I need is a checkbox that they're in the system or something like that, and then you don't have to put it all in again.
Correct. Yeah. If like when we were in here, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can write that. We should actually be, if it's linked, we should be able to create a link here that you would just click on the name and would jump you over to that person if they were already in the system.
Yeah.
Make a note of it, because that's actually that would be a fairly, I'm going to talk like a manager again. My manager brain says that should not be that hard to do. I keep getting
Yeah,
reminded
that's what I'm thinking. That sounds a lot easier.
So yeah, that might be, if that's the information you want to keep, yeah, all of that you can already keep for another contact within the system. So that would be the way to
Okay.
kind of do that.
Yeah, and there's no limit to the number of emergency contacts, right?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
that's right. That's where that priority field comes in to like say, hey, this is
Yeah.
the priority to contact them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, if you can put that button there, it says they're in the system, that solves it all.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the contact information is pretty robust what you can put in.
Yeah, you can put in multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses.
Yeah.
All of that. You would probably want to flag them as to say, hey, they're an emergency contact, so they don't show up on member lists or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Well, if I just call them emergency contact, then I'll know they're linked to somebody. I may not know who, but
yes.
Yeah.
That actually in this case that would work. So that would be a nice way to handle that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
When do you think that button, or is it just if you know it's there? So if our minister is now looking it up, so it'll populate those fields that are hard coded in there. The phone and the relationship probably wouldn't. You just know it's a spouse.
Yeah, you would just
But how would she know to go look for them as an emergency contact?
Well, if you were looking at your record here, they would be listed as emergency contact here, right? They would be able to click on their name and then jump to that.
I suppose I could make her part of my household.
Yeah, or you can make her part of your household. Yes, that would be good. The other thing you could do there, well, if you're part of your household, state is only recorded at this household level. So and if you want to record state, that would need to be a separate household, because everybody in the household shares one address, basically.
Oh, okay.
Shares an address. You can also, instead of emergency contacts, you can also, Empower has a thing called a relationship area.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to pick somebody here so we can say how they're related, right? And this also works with kind of check-in to say, hey, are they allowed to pick up or are they not allowed to pick up?
Yeah.
So this is a little more robust than the emergency contacts. And you can set up a reciprocal arrangement between them. So when this updates here, so from Sammy Austin, I can now see Edgar Bass as a son. And if I select Edgar Bass and come down and see I can see relationships that Samuel Austin is the father.
Oh, okay. Put him in his relationship. Okay.
Put him as a relationship, so people kind of know to go to this relationship area to see, how people are related or how they know each other, as well. So this is a new area that's in Empower, that is not in Empower Church. This is one of the new areas that's in Empower. Does that make sense, Nancy?
Yeah.
There's another question that came in. If someone is attributed as emergency contact, can you tie them to the family relationships? Not really. I mean, it is tied to a person. There again, sometimes emergency contacts, because of the nature of households, might be different based on children. Even in the same household, you might have step parents or things like that. That might be an emergency contact. So emergency contacts are by person. So if you did have a household like that where you had 3 or 4 kids, you would have to repeat the the information between all of them. The other question came up, are we considering alternate addresses for family members would be good to kids away at school? Yes, and I don't have a good story for that yet. Usually by that point in time, you kind of probably really want to move them out into their own household anyway. Kind of like once they're out of high school, if they're in college, generally you kind of want to go ahead and establish them as their own household and move them out of their parents' household anyway with those things. That's it is something that we've looked at and we kind of continue to look at. It just raises a lot of questions. The good news is sending printed mail is getting less and less common nowadays, where most of it's just via email anyway, and it doesn't really matter. Because postal mail is just so expensive to do, and email is almost free. That with email, you don't have to worry about so much as with printed postal mail anymore anyway. I know that's not quite the answer you were looking for, but it is something we continue. It just gets difficult to, like, who are you mailing and when, and then what addresses do you pull? I guess the logic gets kind of complicated. So our answer for now is what is Empower Church, like, take that time to go ahead and establish them as their own household with their own address at that point.
Yeah, I like that solution too, just as to keep it on topic with the clearing the clutter of things. The more we stack temporary addresses and alternative addresses for that, I think you can kind of run into the issue of, well, what if they switch schools or now they've left and we don't have that data, but we still have that listed as their information.
Oh, there was a calendar event question. Oh, okay. So, all right. So the question was, is the calendar event system Empower better than Empower Church? No, not really. The calendar system in Empower is not as robust as what's in Empower Church. So the calendar event system in Empower Church will do room reservations, equipment reservations, equipment conflict checking. So in some cases, we've kind of recommended people still continue to use the room event scheduling system inside of Empower Church itself, because the one in Empower doesn't do that. The one in Empower is mainly in place. Is the kind of the first things we optimized it for was to be able to record attendance. Is used there, and also for check-in is where it is. So Empower currently does not do room scheduling or resource conflict scheduling. Like, we have the church van being reserved as part of an event, or we have 50 chairs being reserved, or what rooms are being used for an event. Empower doesn't do that. The Power Church event scheduling system does all of that, and even some more. Can kind of get into, it's not just rooms, but the room should be set up in this configuration, kind of thing. Just some people might not be familiar with what the Power Church event scheduling does, but Power Church event scheduling can handle those. So thank you, Lynn, for bringing that up. I did miss your event count, your scheduling.
Yep.
Event question.
It looks like we've got a question from Christine, a couple asking how to merge an individual to a family household under contributions, and then also how to remove a deceased person from a household.
Okay. Let's handle the first one first. So handling a deceased person. So I'm going to come to households here. I'm just going to find a household. All right. I'm just going to take my sample data here, and like if say Juliana passed away, what we would do in here. So we would come in here. In Empower, there is a new field for deceased that is a system defined field that we would come in here. We would mark when she passed away, and we would save our changes here. So there is a specific field for deceased that you can now query on. That is a particular field. I would then come in here and then archive her. As we archived a household, you can actually also archive an individual person as well. So say why she's being marked as deceased, or why she's being archived. Forgot what date, so I'm just going to set the date back, and I'm going to change her status code. I might create a deceased status code, but I could just also pick inactive as well, and then say archive. So that's going to archive her. If I come back and look at the household again, it doesn't exactly remove her out of the household. This bar here means that she is marked as archived. So you can see, so automatically things like church directories and so on, they will not be included. Anybody who's archived will not be included on in church directories automatically. That's there. Um, um, there anyway. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So the event archive, there's code already in the system that will not print archive people on most reports, like church directories and class directories. Also, when you archive somebody, it automatically pulled her out of any activities, like Sunday school classes or so on that she was in. She's automatically pulled out of those activities as well. So that's how you would handle it if like somebody passed away, and how you don't really move them from the household to do that, but you would want to mark them as archived, so then again it pulls them out of those things. One other thing you probably really want to do when the situation like that happens is you want to come over to the husbands, especially information, and come over to the caring tab here. And we have a place in Empower called important dates, and we want to add a date here. I think I did like May 15th. We can add some notes in here. So we're putting on his information of like, hey, this is a day that we want to come alongside of him, and we can actually create reports. There's actually a way to automatically have a report emailed out every week to maybe a caring team of like people who've got important dates that are happening that week, so that we can know to contact them and come alongside Anthony on that May 15th date of when his wife passed away, so we can, just contact him and know that the church is thinking about him as part of that.
And is there a way to find to run a report on the archived people? So say if you to find for dates of death.
Yeah.
That was a question we received.
Yes. That is a good question. We should be able. That is a good question. All right, let me think how. Because most of these have they're locked down to where say person is not archived. Like we have to be in there. That might be something we can go search back here on the screen. I'm trying to think. We might not be able to print this. That's a good question. If I go to search. I can search here for is archived, and say person is deceased. I can search for archived deceased people that way, or I could even actually. I don't know. That might be that the printed reports don't let me print those, because there again, the printed reports are primarily for active unarchived people. So we can definitely get a list here on the screen, but we might not be able to print it. That might be something for us to look at, including kind of just a simple list of people. Okay, so I think Was there any? I mean, I think there were some other questions.
Let's see. I think so. Similar. I think connected in
Okay.
that same question, it was the how to merge an individual to a family slash household under contributions.
Okay. Under contributions. Um, if they're in the same household already, let me go clear. Let me reset my people view. If they're in the same household already, it might just be readjusting how their giving unit is done, if that's the case. If they're in the same household, here's somebody, make sure we pick somebody. I'm going to go to like one of the children here. If they're in the same household, we can just adjust how the giving unit is. We change the giving unit to say how they give. Do they give by themselves? Do they give with any of the other giving units in that household? If we select them there, then their giving will be combined together into one giving unit. If they're in a different household altogether, our first thing is probably to move them from the household they're in to the household we need them to be in, and then adjust the giving unit to get their giving unit, their giving information combined. So to move somebody from one household to the other, we would select them in the list, and then we would say move, and this lets you move a person from one household to a different household. So we want to move to another household that's already in the system. We would say existing household, and we would type the name of the household to move them into. So I'm going to Avery household. So I select this. This will move Jack Bass into the Avery, Joan, and Sophia. That we can then combine their giving unit into one giving unit if that's the case. Just as a quick aside, you would say new household. Say they're again the college student that's gone out on their own. You would move them into a new household, and that then takes their personal information and establishes them as a new household in that case. So I think without knowing more, if you got specific questions and support, this is a good thing that support can walk you through the processes of doing it. But generally that's the case. If like we've got a duplicated person, your first, and with contributions, your first thing is to move the person into the household, into the one household, and then either merge that person in with somebody in that household or modifying the giving unit. So that will then to the other giving unit that's already in the household, that will then combine their giving. Okay, there were some questions around the event calendar in Empower. So the Empower does not do any calendar syncing with Google. PowerChurch does. That's one of the features that PowerChurch event calendar does do, is Google calendar syncing. Like I said, the event calendar in Empower is very minimal, primarily there again to support check-in and attendance taking in there. So we covered in our youth thing here because it was part of our checklist that we had. But the calendaring system in PowerChurch is more complete than the calendaring system inside of Empower. So for those things, I would recommend you still, for room scheduling, resource conflict scheduling, Google Calendar syncing, you can still continue, even if you were to use Empower, would probably still look at using that calendaring system inside of PowerChurch. Because it does do those things. We kind of showed it just here as an example, just a kind of a thing to like, hey, you want to go through and clean up your calendar, so that events that were scheduled get pulled off, so it just doesn't removes confusion, and staff knows we want to have one place with the truth. There again, like with all the other things of those, I would do those inside of PowerChurch. For again, the room scheduling, resource scheduling, like vans or equipment that would need to be scheduled with an event as well. So the question, we need deceased people for year-end reports. So you would need to leave them in system to year-end. Yeah, I would leave them in the system till year-end if you want their name to print on contribution statements, or if you got denominational reports in there. There is plans to upgrade the calendaring system. It's all just a matter of resources and time. Right now, the main amount of resources is going into creating an accounting system for inside of Empower. For that, is where the main resources are going. After that, we will determine what the kind of the next area to do is. There's a lot of areas that we want to bring over into Empower. Questions about pricing. So we need to pay for both Power Church and Empower. There is a combined pricing, so it is $10 more per month to use Power Church and Empower. So right now, the pricing for Power Church Online is $39.95 a month. For Empower as is, it is $40 a month. To use both to use Empower with Power Church Online accounting and the Power Church Online calendaring system, it would be $50 a month. It's $10 more a month to do that. There are, as you're seeing, there are differences between Power Church and Empower. There's a lot more communication tools inside of Power Church. We talk about scheduling emails, some stuff we didn't even touch today. There's a whole newsletter scheduling section. Empower can send text messages, which we didn't talk about today. So there is some other capabilities inside of Empower that are not in Power Church as well. So it's not, you're not paying for both, but it is $10 more a month to use Empower plus Power Church Online for the accounting and the room scheduling portions if you want to use that.
Well, awesome. Hey,
Okay.
thank y'all again for asking all of these questions.
These are really good questions. So.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's cool. We get to learn from y'all just as much sometimes. So that's the one thing.
Did somebody else have raise their hand?
Yes, it was me, Linda Fisher.
Hey, Linda.
I know.
So if we're using both Power Church and Empower, Power Church will still have all its modules available, because we were thinking about being able to compare some of the data as we put it in.
Run that by me. So you said Power Church will be able to, or Power Church will have what?
All the modules still available.
It does, but we really don't. We really don't recommend, especially the membership and contributions. We're considering making those, like, if you do that, we'd make them, because the problem would be, like, if somebody goes back and updates they're two separate databases. So if somebody went back and changed something in Power Church, you would not have that information in Empower.
Right. We're not talking about changing stuff in membership or contributions once
Okay.
we use an Empower. We just want to be able to visualize it as we're updating some of the new records.
In that case, yes, you would have that. Yes.
That was all we were worried about. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and in that case, that's why I want to be really careful about that, because we've had some people think of, like, oh, I can use both, and they're completely disconnected systems. There's basically like we talked about already, like when you make a deposit in Empower is the equivalent of posting in Power Church, posting contributions in Power Church. There's a way that will, and we can show you how that works. There's a way it'll make that deposit entry for you over in Fund Accounting in Power Church Online.
Okay, yeah, and that's one thing we really need to see, and we'll call and schedule up.
Yeah, you can call us or email us. We have a demo, a YouTube video that we can send you that will show you, that walks through how that works. We'll be happy to talk with you in person about it too. But yeah, that's it is equivalent to the posting process in Power Church contributions module.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Well, awesome. Well, yeah, we want to honor everybody's time, and I appreciate y'all sitting in for the full hour for us. But yeah, we hope this was useful for y'all, and we'll thank you again, and thank you for everything that you're doing in your communities to serve the church and the people in it. But yeah, again, we'll send that recording, and hopefully this was helpful for y'all. Y'all have a great day.
All right, great, thanks.